Okay, well, it's Sunday, and I've had an incredibly busy last week and a half to where I was getting home super late. I've hardly had time to straighten up anything, keep up on anything, and in fact, if anything, I just, got worse about dumping stuff down. So now that I have a free Sunday afternoon, we need to go ahead and get it reset. So without wasting any time, I'm going to go ahead and meet you in the kitchen. As you can see, I already started pulling some things out of the fridge that I want to cook and some dirty containers. I'm going to go ahead and get some chicken started in the crock pot just so I have shredded chicken on hand. That's probably going to just go in the freezer when I'm done and portion it out, but as you can see, I'm tossing anything that was leftovers that I didn't get to or forgotten, and started putting stuff in my dishwasher. So I'm going to go ahead and get the chicken going and before I get started on anything else really. And I also like to keep it simple when I'm just cooking components in the crock pot. Just, some garlic pepper from Dollar General, some salt, and, then it just leaves it open-ended for other recipes during the week or in the future. And now that I have that going, it's time to go ahead and put away some dishes that I didn't put away from the last time I did dishes, probably from about a week and a half ago, because again, it was kind of a crazy time for me. I had some trainings that, went later than my normal work hours. These sort of things happen. While I'm putting stuff away, this is a good time to introduce myself if you are new around here. My name is Holly, obviously, and I have two cats, Queso and Chloe, who love to quote-unquote help with everything that I do, and I'm actually kind of surprised they're not hanging around a little bit more in the kitchen. I'm sure Queso's probably underneath my feet somewhere just out of the camera shot, honestly, though. He does tend to get a little codependent. It's adorable, but it can be a bit much, which is weird because he's also not, he hates getting picked up. It's bizarre to me, but whatever. He's still my little buddy. He just wants to be near me whenever, just not in my lap or, getting picked up. Chloe is a total lap cat, however, after she's gotten comfortable here, much to Queso's discontent. I don't know why he gets so jealous of her getting in my lap when he doesn't. So, whatever. Cats and kids, am I right? And now that I've sufficiently gotten sick of almost tripping over my recycling, I went ahead and started to take it outside. That is a new trash can, so I don't have a really good way to collect my recycling. I did keep the old trash can simply because I'd seen my neighbor use another trash can just for recycling, which I think is a good idea. It's just the placement of things, and so I just have to make some decisions because I'm also thinking the dishwasher might be on the chopping block. I totally got it for free, so it's not like a total loss, and I did use it quite a bit, and this is actually my current dishwashing setup right here, and I need to refill my paper towels. But anyway, as I was saying, I might put the dishwasher on the chopping block, and even though it was free, of course I'm going to try to sell it, duh. I did use it a lot when I first got it, and there were a few things where, it typically takes 2 to 3 hours, which means it's tying up the sink itself, and I had gotten better about planning ahead and making sure I had a few glasses of water ready to go in case I got thirsty or ran out of water between the dishwashing cycles. But honestly, at this point, I've gotten to the point where it's so much faster just to hand wash everything, even though this is a little bit longer and more intense of dishes than what I normally have because a week and a half's worth has piled up. And I know you're thinking, only that in a week and a half? Well, I mean, some of it was that I was terrible about eating out, or I had work dinners or leftovers and things that were not necessarily, I wasn't necessarily creating dishes, but then again, there were containers of food that I hadn't gotten to. So if I misplanned food or wasn't expecting to be taken out to lunch during work this week, some of the food didn't get eaten, and sort of that's a shame, but I've decided to start letting some of that go. And the other reason I had a few other really gross dishes were that, in this one in particular, So while I was out on vacation the week prior, my bosses decided to go ahead and move me to the third floor where it's quieter. And in the process of moving, I found dishes that I had inadvertently set down in this weird little cubby, thinking, obviously, I thought I was going to remember to take them home and clean them. And I cannot tell you how old they are. So that's why I'm going to do like a good scrub on them, because it was like lentil soup, or if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but that's what the container suggested to me, that it was really disgusting lentil soup residue at this point. So I'm going to wash it, and just because it is plastic that can take on smells, I am going to do a bleach run. Someday I may invest in glass containers, but for now, these still do the job, and they're what I have. And so in my mind, there's no sense in throwing them away just to go into glass. So I think as these containers get to the point where they're just too yucky or discolored, or, you know, when you kind of over microwave something, you get those weird textures in there. When I get to that point, maybe that's when I will start to consider moving into glass containers. But for now, these work. And the other reason that the dishwasher is on the chopping block is that some of my cookware cannot go into it. And I discovered that actually when some of the skillets I had put in there thinking it'll clean it better. And absolutely it cleaned better. However, the finish got destroyed on it, and I didn't know that's what it was. I just thought, well, what the heck? So I went to go and put the warranty claim in. And when I did, because I went to go do it online, they said, well, we won't cover certain types of damage. And I'm like, well, how would they know? And you scroll down and it shows pictures of the exact types of damage caused. And sure enough, like, there was no way. These people are trained. They're going to see these skillets and immediately know that I was putting them in the dishwasher. I didn't know that. I had this cookware even before I had the house and the dishwasher, and it never occurred to me that that was a thing, that you can't put, you know, pots and pans necessarily into the dishwasher. So I'm curious to know if anyone knows a little bit more about that and can speak to that. That was interesting to me, and I'm thinking, well, if those are my heavy duty items that are going to have the most gunk and grossness and caked on stuff is my cookware, why would I bother with a dishwasher? So those are just some thoughts rolling around in my head, but I'm open. Like, feel free to put some thoughts in the comments below, because again, this is also probably the first dishwasher I've really ever had. So I have no idea. This is also nicer cookware. For anyone curious, I mean, it's not super high end, but I do really love the Rachel Ray cookware set. It was just my own. When it started to go to demise, it was my own fault, and I just didn't know, and I didn't read the instructions, because who reads instructions on cookware? I just never crossed my mind, but now I know. But I also completely understand. I am only one person, and so this is a lot of dishes for one person. It's not a lot of dishes probably in general, especially for any of you with family or husbands, roommates, whatever. Like, this is not a lot. I get that. So if my situation was different, maybe I would consider keeping it or use it more often. And also, I completely understand if doing dishes is your least favorite, most hated chore, then by all means, use a dishwasher. This is just, you know, things going on in my mind. And if I had a built-in, it might be different, but I don't. So I could clear out a little bit of space and then have a little bit better of a trash and recycling center. Again, just some things going on in my mind. Nothing's really set in stone, but I'm just curious. Are dishes your least favorite chore of all time? I don't know. I'm just curious. I don't think it's my least favorite. I think folding clothes is my least favorite, and there's actually background for that, but my least favorite chore is actually folding laundry, and I've taken steps to make sure that I have to fold almost nothing. So almost everything goes on a hanger or gets put into a bin, like if it's socks or something. So I completely understand. Whatever makes sense for you, do that. Back to the moving of the desks. And so, oh gosh, and I felt so ridiculous that I found those disgusting dishes. And I'm so glad, like, nobody was around when I was putting my stuff on a cart to get moved upstairs. But anyway, so while I was out on vacation, my boss and my vice president were like, you know, I guess they had considered that when I first started anyway. It puts me closer to my vice president. My boss works actually out of a different location entirely and only visits about once a month or so. And at the time, they thought it made sense to have me closer to another department that I work pretty closely with, but it was just getting to be a little bit too much. And then also they were looking at getting an intern, and in that cluster of desks, it was just completely full. So it was just a matter of, it just made sense for everybody to move. And I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it because my ADHD appointment assessment got pushed back a few weeks into March. Actually, probably close to a month into March. And so I was kind of annoyed because I had wanted to at least wait and see what happened out of that assessment and see if any techniques or medication might help with the situation. But honestly, overall, like, after I got past my initial, like, oh, well, but, you know, because I have friends, I've made friends down there. And, you know, it's like, well, okay, it's not like I'm totally leaving. I'm just going up a flight of stairs or an elevator ride if you so choose. But so once I kind of got over it and I moved upstairs and I was like, you know, and actually, you know, my desk, it doesn't face the window, but it's near enough to the window that I get a ton of light. So I'm actually so much happier now that, well, at least when the sun is shining, that I'm so much happier now. And another department had gotten moved up there recently. I mean, there had been enough shuffling around that this was also able to get kind of just, so it got kind of lumped into everyone moving. And so I think it will be better overall. And I don't have any updates, obviously, on the ADHD front, other than I have an appointment in March now. Back to this Sunday reset, I did realize I forgot to mention that I also got some steaks kind of seasoned and ready to go. And they're just kind of, you know, brining and coming up to room temperature. And today in particular, I was curious to see how steak will do in the air fryer. I've never actually done it before, so I looked at a few recommendations on how to do that, and so we'll see which one I end up preferring. Obviously, the air fryer is slightly more convenient if it does work out, because then, you know, I can just put it in there, forget about it until the timer goes off, where when I do it in the skillet, I do actually really keep an eye on it. So, and again, that's just something I do often while I'm doing my Sunday afternoon reset before the week starts, is that I'm bouncing back and forth between getting food prepared for the week and also cleaning and doing dishes and things like that. I will say, again, like I said, dishes typically aren't too atrocious for me, other than some of these have sat for a while. Like, if you were watching along, I was getting real frustrated that I had, you know, the egg whites all over the one spatula. And so I'm kind of frustrated with myself at this point, because if nothing else, I wish I would have done a better job pre-rinsing, but there's certain things like egg and egg white that, you know, they just don't come off as well. And that's when I remembered, oh, that's why I don't scramble egg whites anymore if I'm just doing egg whites. And so I'm just going to go back to putting them in the little egg-sized skillet. As far as my Lent update, I did decide what I am giving up for Lent is that I've decided to go ahead and do my no spend challenge for the, well, I was going to say for the month of February, but Lent actually did start super early, so kind of the month of February, but for a full 40 days. And so I think it's going pretty well so far. I am someone that typically puts things into online shopping carts and lets them sit for a while I think about it. I actually do not have Amazon Prime personally. I have Walmart Plus, which has a lot of similar benefits to Amazon Prime. Plus, you know, I get Paramount Plus for free. So as far as those types of things, like the membership, is that an unnecessary expense? Technically, yes. I'm not canceling anything that's reoccurring or currently planned. I also have a salon visit sometime in March that is planned. I will still go to that appointment, but the point is to keep from buying unnecessary items. And also, I've done a no spend once before. It's been probably a few years, and it really, by the end of it, made me think of all the things that I had saved in my carts, and a lot of stuff I was like, It really just kind of helps clear that shopping lens and the convenience lens. There are a few challenges to this, however. I do have a work event coming up where a government agency is coming to visit for an award. It's not for anything bad. It's a total awesome celebration. However, the suit that I own is slightly too small. So I haven't decided if, obviously, like, the first thing is going to be to see, really, is there anything in my closet, if I can make it work and make it presentable. And, you know, I know it doesn't truly have to be business formal, but at least at the very, very top end of business casual. Certainly we're not allowed to wear t-shirts or anything else that day, even though we typically are a more casual office. So I haven't decided what that's going to look like yet. Typically, I would have to special order pieces from, sometimes Old Navy has enough talls selections in their business wear. Not always. Often I will go to Torrid is my next, actually probably my first pick for the quality and the ability to resell pieces on Poshmark or Mercari. I've never had any trouble at all selling anything Torrid, especially in a tall. So I have been debating if I am going to spend the time and effort to attempt to thrift an outfit, because I could easily spend an enormous amount of time and effort running around to thrift stores to find nothing that will work or fit. It might be worth it if it's convenient and not too far out of my drive home a few days just to check it out. So I'm going to think on that a little bit more, see what's out there, and if there's any great deals or sales from Torrid or another store, or Poshmark, obviously. I'll probably check out Poshmark and Mercari just to see. I don't know that I could lose the amount of weight healthfully in order to fit what I currently own. I'm also considering other options of pieces that I can put together that might work and feel dressy enough, or maybe that I just have to purchase like a blazer or sport coat and put over a dress. But I also cannot picture a dress in my closet that currently fits. I have a ton of wrap skirts, and I will have to go through those to see if any of them look professional enough. I do wear them to conferences, so it's not like this government agency hasn't seen me in colorful skirts, and I tend to wear the more toned down ones, but that's going to be an interesting adventure, and I'd love to hear what you think if you've done a no spend and found yourself in a situation like this, what you ended up doing as a solution to try to avoid buying during a no spend time in your life. And as you can see, I'm getting ready to pull out these cute little bins. I think I got them in the Walmart section, where when you walk in, they're trying to mimic the Target dollar spot where, so I think it was $3 for a set of two. And so this is one of those situations where they say don't buy containers unless you know exactly what's going in them and you know they make sense. But this was one of those things where I'm like, I don't know why I felt they were going to be useful. So they have been sitting up in the cabinet for at least a month or two. I don't know why, I just felt like they were going to be useful for something in my cabinets. And as it turns out, I felt like they were the perfect size for gathering all the components of the HelloFresh box meals that I had gotten for the week, which I don't get them every week. But in this instance, because I knew I was going to be busy and not have a ton of time to shop or prepare food, I did get a HelloFresh box. And so those were the perfect size for that. Also, I've learned I like having an empty little something, like the empty drink packet thing, just to put little trash bits in throughout the week. So I might invest into a tiny mini trash can. And also there was my fortune from Chinese that I had gotten a couple weeks ago because I didn't eat the fortune cookie, and that was a weird fortune. So anyway, go ahead and do a quick wipe down. Actually, I think this was more than just a quick wipe down. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to have textured countertops ever. Plus, also add that with this pattern that it makes it incredibly difficult to tell. Is that a spill or part of the texture? I don't know how many times I mean, I've been here going on 4 years, and I still question certain spots every single time I go to clean them. So now I'm just tossing things as I need to, and also keeping an eye on what I'm cooking. And as you can see, to me, that is the most delightful cook on zucchini ever. With one round of cooking done for lunches for the week, it was time to go ahead and put away the dishes that I had done earlier, so that way I would have room to do the dishes that I just created by making the steaks and zucchinis, and I think I even put in some sauteed onions after all was said and done with. For the astute observer who is watching along, you may notice that I went from mauve, like a dark mauve legging, to gray leggings, and luckily this happened completely off camera. I choked on water because that's who I am as a person. I'm the type of person who will die about 3 times a week by choking on water. And in my hacking coughing fit, you also know this if you were a woman above a certain age, is you then begin to leak as you cough or sneeze or do anything. And so that is not unique to women who have children. Actually, that developed mostly, I think, about 5 or 6 years ago. I had the flu in the worst time recovering from said flu. So now my constitution to keep these things from happening has been severely compromised ever since then. Like, to the point where in my work backpack, I always keep a spare pair of underwear. And that is information that nobody needs to know, but this is life and these things happen. So if you are also that type of person, it's totally embarrassing in the moment, and I still get totally embarrassed in the moment, but you are not alone. I promise you, you're not the only one. As soon as the meals were cooled down enough to go ahead and pop into the fridge, you can see I'm just making sure the lids are nice and snug before I put them in there. And now it's time to check the chicken out just to see if it's ready to be shredded. And it sort of was a little bit, but it didn't look totally done. So I am going to let it cook for just a little bit longer. This is one of those times where I am reminded that had I kept up on the dishes, and yes, I was getting home late. It wasn't exorbitantly so the week prior, but so this is a little bit frustrating to me because this is what I should have just for dishes today if I would have just kept up on them during the week. And I mean, we all make those judgment calls of, am I really too tired to do this or wiped out or whatever? And so it is a little bit of a reminder to myself every so often to be stuck with these big batches of dishes, because otherwise this would have been a really simple cleanup for meal prep, and I wouldn't have had to, start by cleaning in order to get anything done. I will say, overall, as far as doing dishes, there is one thing which is more so because I let the dishes pile up more than I typically do now that I've kind of gotten at least the main areas of my house under control, is that my frustration only with dishes, and again, it's mainly when I have so many of them to do, is I don't know if you can tell how much I am kind of struggling with stooping. I'm 5'11", which is very tall. My house was built, I want to say, in the mid-50s. I don't remember the exact construction build, but counters were not designed for tall people. And I don't know that that's really changed at all with cabinetry at all. So if I do eventually go to buy this place, and if I'm ever in a position that I could remodel the kitchen, that is one thing that I would love to do, is elevate everything just a few inches. I've tried a few different methods, including sitting in one of my dining room chairs to do dishes, but then you're leaning over in a different way and straining your back in a different way. So I will say, as far as doing dishes is concerned, as much as it's not frustrating to do them, I don't like when I let them pile up, because it can be a strain just to do them physically. I don't know if there's any awesome solutions out there other than remodeling your kitchen, but if anyone knows of anything or is looking for some way to get onto Shark Tank, if you solve this solution, honestly, you will just make money hand over fist. And it's just so funny because just about everybody I know that's shorter always wishes they were taller. And then, us tall girls were like, if we were just a smidge shorter, that would be great. But, we're given what we're given for a reason. And I've learned to live with it for the most part. But sometimes I would just like a few simple solutions just to make things just a bit easier. Anyone who is watching along and wondering how come I'm not really taking any breaks, well, through the magic of editing, I have actually taken a few breaks throughout the afternoon and, occasionally played a little bit on my iPad, as you can see here. And so, again, this is something that I do spread out over the course of any given Sunday. I typically grocery shop with my dad approximately every other Saturday. Sometimes we get a little off schedule, but in general, every 2 weeks. And occasionally I will do a grocery pickup or delivery in between if I misplanned or, something has come up. But I do try to think about what makes sense for relatively easy, packable lunches throughout the week. And in addition to lunches, I'm also usually packing ahead my breakfasts, because I'm not a super early morning eater. I'm really genuinely not hungry until about 10-ish o'clock in the morning, sometimes 9. But by then, I've already been in the office for at least an hour, hour and a half, depending on, traffic and everything. So, I do have to do a lot of planning ahead. What's easy, what's packable, and what should last throughout the week. The other thing I have learned is I also can't do too many of the same kind of meal throughout the week, or I'll just get sick of it. Or in the case of something that's chicken-based, sometimes it's just the fact that by the end of the week, whatever was in the containers are kind of on the dry side. So when I do the crock pot chicken, I tend to almost go a little bit over on adding liquid to make sure it does stay longer in the fridge and freezer. So that's just a little bit of a tip for you for that. And I do feel like my lunches that you saw me cook seem a little on the bougie side. Typically, this is not a typical lunch selection for me by any stretch of the imagination. I was also kind of trying to use up some HelloFresh credit before they expired, so steaks are not something that's a normal lunch thing in my household, and or really in general, so don't feel like you ever have to go to that extent. My lunches actually tend to be way simpler and way more budget friendly, so if you ever want to see a video on that, I will be happy to share some of the lunches and ideas that I do quite often and share them with you. And no true kitchen reset would be complete without doing one final pass of wipe down, making sure the stove is clean and the counters are ready for the next time that I need to come into the kitchen. One thing I do like to do is whatever I'm using, whether it's a paper towel or a scuzz towel, to wipe off any mess. Once I have sprayed everything down and the towel or paper towel has been dampened from the cleaning solutions, I will try to take swipes across other things that tend to get forgotten, so that way they're not such a huge chore later on whenever I do finally do a deep clean. And something I'm always curious about is how others manage their deep cleaning. Clearly I'm being tested for ADHD, so I struggle with routines and maintaining routines. I've tried the Fly Lady routine, I've tried so many different things, and nothing really has stuck. So I'm always curious to hear how others manage their deeper cleaning, if they space it out, or if you do larger efforts every several months or so. I'm just curious, and if you have any suggestions, I would love to try them. And if you want to see me trying out these deep cleaning techniques, of course, I will be happy to share them with you. If anyone is interested, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. Oh, this propagation station, it is so adorable. It was a present from a dear friend for my 40th birthday, but it is a giant pain to clean, and I am cleaning it today just to go ahead and make sure it is reset for the next time I'm ready to propagate some houseplants. There's one in particular that, in the interest of saving it, I'm going to have to propagate it because it's just acting really funny. But I'm not going to bore you by doing that on camera with the scrub out of all of those little itty bitty glass flasks and all the gross algae that has kind of grown in them. That's not something people want to see. So this is part of the reason that the dishwasher is on the chopping block in my mind, because it's one more thing to maintain and clean, and yet another surface that I will eventually start placing stuff down on, even though I'm really trying hard to break that habit. So we'll see come yard sale and garage sale season time. I will say one thing about that dishwasher is it is the first stop I make in the morning, so I'm just resetting it here with water and the things that I take first thing in the morning. And hi, Chloe. So that is one benefit of the dishwasher, because even though it's the same height as the counters, for some reason Queso doesn't think he can get on it. Anyway, one last final put away of the dishes, one last round of the crockpot dishes, and it looks like the kitchen is finally reset and set up for success for the week. And I did decide I really do like those little containers for corralling meal prep ideas for throughout the week. And if you're not quite done hanging out, I've put up a playlist for you to keep watching. And I thank you for stopping by, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.